Hey everyone, deadlifts. Why you should learn to love them and how to do them. So firstly, why to love them? Simple move, quite easy to do once you learn the technique. It does take a bit of practice to get it right and to get the right feeling in the body. One thing I really enjoy about this move is the fact that you actually need to go a bit heavier than you think you can, and that really helps you lock in the right technique. So it's one, if you like to challenge yourself and push a bit, you can have some fun with it. It's really simple, you don't need any fancy equipment. Barbell's the traditional one, kettlebells work great too, dumbbells if you have them, or just anything heavy. 2 bags of heavy shopping when you come home from the supermarket, that will do the job as well. Why to love it? What's it doing for your body? So the main action in a deadlift is hip extension. So that's where we go from a hinge position where the hips are flexed into a standing position where the hips are extended or open. It works almost all the muscles in the posterior chain, that's the back of the body, from the soles of the feet all the way up through the calves, the hamstrings, into the glutes, the back muscles. And those are muscles that tend to get a bit stretched, maybe a bit lazy if we're sitting down for long periods during the day, repeatedly day after day. So it's good to work them, wake them up again, and that helps us to have good posture. And a good upright posture translates into walking, running especially, and really beneficial for that. The other great thing that it does is core strength, not just strength in terms of being able to lift that heavy load off the floor, but also stability. So in running especially, as well as walking, one of the main functions of the core is to help you stay upright against gravity. So it's resisting, being on one leg, it's pushing back to center, keeping you upright as you move. And so it's about stabilizing rather than just raw strength, being able to crunch with something heavy attached to you. You are learning to be able to move then more fluidly and quickly forwards because you have that control and the body is able to adapt to uneven terrain, for instance, or to just, the running movement of being on one leg at a time. So there are lots of variations of deadlifts that you could try. So the main one, as I said, is with a barbell, the traditional one. In the gym, the Olympic barbells you see, they start from 20 kilos and then you can add on from there. If you're used to doing deadlifts in something like BodyPump, then you're starting with the bar on its own and just adding weight. The bar typically in a pump is probably less than half a kilo, and you're adding on whatever you want to work with from there. Either way is good. The thing to start with the setup is the feet. So you want the toes facing forwards, maybe out 10-15 degrees. You want your feet underneath your hips, so underneath your centre of gravity. Wide is good too, that's a great variation if you're looking to work deeper into the glutes, but if you're learning your technique to start with, you want to bring their feet underneath the hips. We are looking to hinge from the hips, so we want to shift the weight backwards, sliding the hips behind you, and then we're going to bring them up forward so that the muscles in the back of the body. One of the common faults you see in the gym, in BodyPump for instance, is people's knees creeping forward, and as soon as that happens, you're loading the quads, it becomes more of a squat. So you want to be really careful, either get someone to check your technique or video yourself and watch it back, and look for that knees staying more or less directly above the ankles and the hip bones or the hip joints shifting backwards in space, and to counterbalance that, the chest will naturally come forward. One of the other common faults that I see is shoulders rounding out. So to reach the weight, people are trying to reach, and you can see they're compromising the spine by doing that. They're using shoulder movement to get to where the hips should allow them to go. So if you're starting with the barbell on the floor, you're going to get really low, so you're going to bend the knees a lot, but sticking the bum backwards, as I've just said. Draw the shoulder blades back and down So make a conscious effort to roll the shoulder blades back, picking up the bar, and then you push through the feet, lift through the back of the legs, squeeze the butt, come up really tall, little shoulder squeeze, lowering back down. So that's deadlifting from the floor. Another variation, this is the one we see in BodyPump, where you're starting from the top, and this will not be one where you're able to go to a max lift like you will from the floor, but it's just as effective at working the muscles in the back of the body, especially when you're doing a class like pump, because the high repetitions help get that fatigue that's needed for muscular change. So in this one, we're starting hands thumb distance from thighs. We can start in that tall braced position, abs are engaged, hips slide back, bar stops at the knees, and then we reset. That's called a Romanian deadlift. So again, hips back, bar to knees, coming up really tall. So again from the side, loading the hamstrings, lifting with the glutes, lifting with the abs. So what you want to notice as you're performing the movement is the hamstrings will feel lengthened in that position. Then we activate there, we squeeze the muscles in the butt, and we also squeeze the muscles in the abs. So think hamstrings and glutes pulling down, abs pulling up, and that will help bring you into that lovely extended position through the hips. Exactly the same with the kettlebells. More of a closed grip in this one, so you'll find your shoulders will naturally want to pull forward a bit more, so you want to make more of a conscious effort to open them out with the kettlebell deadlift. This is a great one to practice if you are also going to be playing with kettlebell swings, which I'll talk about separately. This is also a good one if you wanted to start playing with mixing up and trying out some variations. So you could do a single arm variation. So we're unevenly loading the core, keeping both feet flat on the floor, so you'll feel it a bit more into one shoulder. That's a great option just to vary the training, to give the core a different stimulus to work against. You could also use dumbbells if you had pairs of weights. Dumbbell variation is good. Again, you'll probably find you need to work extra hard to keep those shoulders back, but it will have the same effect, working the hamstrings, working the glutes, engaging the core, stabilizing. Now for runners especially, the next variation I'm going to show you is the single leg deadlift, and this one is really good because we're also working on balance, so that single leg balance. As running is a single leg activity, you bound, you hop, push forward from one foot to the other, so being able to balance and stabilize, again stabilizing your core from one leg at a time, is really good to practice outside of running, and you will feel the difference if you try and include this in your training for a couple of weeks. So for the single leg, I like to do a load opposite the standing leg, and that is due to like cross slings of strength through the body, diagonal slings of strength, fascia, muscle that work across the back, and it also helps to keep you even. So one of the things to watch out for when you're coming into the single leg variation is that you don't rotate the body. You want to engage through the abs, lift up through the chest, try and keep the spine nice and straight like we did in the regular deadlift. But as you tip onto one leg lifting out behind you, you'll notice it's harder to keep that position, and what you sometimes see is either the shoulder dropping again, and you can see my hips probably rotated there, or if you were having the weight on the same side as your standing leg, you'll see people to reach to the floor, they'll lift that hip open, but the purpose of the move is not to bring the weight to the floor. The purpose of the move is to train the glutes, the hamstrings, the core, so you need to be really focused on where your body is in space and your technique there, and forget where the weight ends up. Doesn't matter. So So just shifting the leg back, sitting back into the glutes, pushing the bum back. Be brave, don't be shy. Push that foot down into the floor and come back up. And again, balancing it out the either side. Okay, so there's a couple of whys and hows for deadlift. So great for strengthening the posterior chain. It's good for posture, hopefully you can see that, but with practicing good posture even as you're executing the move, as well as the additional load, that's going to help. Great for running, you're practicing using those muscles that need to be really powerful when you're kicking off on one leg. Lots of variations to play with to challenge the core in different ways, to help with your balance. And yeah, it's also just another good way of doing some extra training with your body that doesn't have the impact of running. So you're working those muscles in a way that's going to be beneficial for that running action, but without the impact of running. So something you can do either on cross-training days or perhaps after you've done your run for the day. And hopefully those technique tips have helped you as well. If you want advice about how to work that into a training program or a workout, give me a shout. Any other questions, let me know, and I'll speak to you soon.